Hi, everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome. We are here today to talk about Airbnb and how to get started and address the new regulations. So, this session is perfect for those who want to be an Airbnb host or just curious about navigating new regulations. So, join us for an informative session where we discuss everything you need to know about starting your journey with Airbnb and staying compliant with new rules. I know a lot of us have been asking for a few weeks now, a lot of conversations in the group about Airbnb, what's legal, what's illegal. There was a conversation where some of us thought that it's now illegal to have Airbnb in New York City, and that's not true. So I brought on a colleague from Airbnb, Warren Gardner, and he's going to talk about what is true, what's not true, what you can do, and how Airbnb can help. So, welcome, Warren. I'm going to call you Warren G for the rest of the session, and we're going to chop it up about Airbnb. So, I want to start with thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for
And
having me.
what is Airbnb? What is this concept?
Thanks so much, Leah, and I appreciate the opportunity to get on and speak with you and with your guests and talk through these rules and regulations. I'll quickly note if I got $1 for every time someone called me Warren G, I'd be able to like own my own company somewhere. So what is Airbnb? So Airbnb, quite simply, is just a platform that facilitates a relationship between people who want to rent their homes and people who want to rent a home. We serve as somewhat of a middle ground, a trusted vetting source for those individuals. And so what we provide is so if we say if Aaliyah wants to rent her home to Warren, Aaliyah is who she says she is and who she's and her home is what she said it is and where she says that it is. And the pictures are as accurate as possible of a description of what her home looks like. And Warren is who he says he is, and he's an actual real paying customer who's going to look to share her home, as opposed to obviously home sharing is nothing new. It's been going on for centuries, right? And so this is just a safer way to facilitate that transaction between two people.
Right. So it's home sharing. You just renting out a space in your home for people that need somewhere to rent.
Right.
Makes
And
sense.
and it provides people an opportunity um, to explore cities differently, right?
Yeah.
We all know the traditional ways of tourism and visiting cities, but what Airbnb also provides is just a different way of doing it. And some people are looking for different experiences, but also you have people who are looking for or have the need for a different way to travel, right?
Yeah.
For example, I'm married and have kids. Like my wife and I may want to find a place if we're going away with our family for an extended amount of days, like a week or so. We may not want to buy food every day, right? And so we may be looking for someplace with a kitchen, right, or someplace with a crib, or someplace with that feels a little bit more like home while we're away. And so some people are looking for those experiences, but some people are also just looking to be able to stay close to family in the city, especially in places that are not served well by hotels. Um, we hear stories about people who are visiting, grandparents who may be visiting their kids who have kids or may have a new baby, and they want to stay on that block as opposed to staying somewhere further out where they might have to stay in a hotel, and so they can just walk over and visit their new grandchild,
Right.
or someone visiting someone in a hospital, or just someone who may be ill and they want to stay as close by as possible and still get the feel and the comforts of home.
Got it. And Warren, what is your role at Airbnb?
So I serve as the senior manager for public policy here in New York. So I oversee the public policy and government relations for Airbnb in the entire state of New York.
Got it. Audience, let me know if you've ever used Airbnb either as a guest or as a host. I'd love to see who's out there and what you have used Airbnb for. Okay, so let's get into this first question. Can you provide an overview of the recent regulatory changes affecting short term rentals in Queens, New York, and how these changes impact both existing and prospective hosts on Airbnb. So, I know you heard my question. I have to say that I'm always going to say Queens, New York. I understand that a lot of this is New York as a whole, but we don't care about New York as a whole. We care about Queens, New York. So you're going to hear that in all of my questions. I reference specifically Queens. So
Right.
can you provide an overview of the recent changes in Queens, New York?
Sure. And I'll also say that's totally fair. As someone who grew up in Queens and Southeast Queens, I always have a
Woo!
yeah, for Queens. Parents are still there. I still have family there in Southeast Queens, and so if you're going to reference any neighborhood or any borough, is always good with me. But I will caveat that in some of my answers, I'm going to respond more broadly
That's fair.
to right. And so, but so in terms of the rules and regulations now, so local law 18 is the current rule in law in New York City that governs short-term rentals. So that law was passed by the council in December of 2021, when became law in January of 2022, and went into effect in September of 2023. And so what it did, the implementation and enforcement of it basically or drastically reduced the supply of short-term rentals in New York City, and left thousands of New Yorkers without the option to rent their primary residences if they wanted to go away for either leisure or for a weekend or for business travel. So what the current rules dictate now is that if you want to share your home, you have to well, obviously you have to register with the city's Office of Special Enforcement, but then you also have to be present in the home through the entire duration of the time that you have a guest in your home. You can only have max two guests at a time. So again, like myself, my wife and our kids, we could not go and get an Airbnb in the city if we wanted to, stay in the city for a weekend or for a couple of days to either, take on some sightseeing or show or whatever the case may be. Couldn't do that. And number three, is what we think is one of the most egregious parts of the law, is that you have to, as a host, allow your guest unfettered access to every single room in your entire home. So what that means is that as a host, you are not allowed to lock your own bedroom door in your home. You Yeah, that's right. If you're like, let's say if you're an attorney or someone who works around classified information, you can't lock your private office or any closet in your home. Your guests have to have unfettered access to every single room at any time that they're staying there. So those are what the current rules dictate.
Got it. So Airbnb is not illegal in New York City. There are just some new rules.
Right. And that, yeah, I want to clarify that. So it's not illegal. Um, People can still become hosts. You can connect with the city and the Office of Special Enforcement, and they have the entire process to become a host. We have heard from folks that it can be a little onerous and cumbersome to go through that process. Um, and I will say it's become a little bit more difficult to host, but it's
Got
not
it.
impossible.
But
You
it's not
can't be.
impossible. Got it. So let's go right into the next question. For newcomers looking to start hosting in Queens, New York, what advice or resources does Airbnb offer to help them understand and adhere to local laws and regulations? Just in general, how do you get started and how do you get started legally?
Right. So for any Queens resident in New York City, so to if you want to host on our platform, you have to get registered with the city through the Office of Special Enforcement. So what we've created at Airbnb, we've created what we call a responsible hosting page. And Ali, I'll share the link with you so that you can
Okay,
share it out with everyone.
sure.
And so if you go on there, it's kind of a guideline. It's not an exhaustive list of the rules and regulations, but it's a guide. It's a guideline, and it's a good starting point to give anyone education around the rules and regulations that govern short-term rentals in the city. And we also have links on there that takes you to the city's website so you can learn more and then apply through there. And in addition to that, we have links to, our internal safety protocols and other ways to connect with other hosts throughout New York City. So it's a good wealth of information and resources that can point you in the right directions if you want to get started.
Got it. And then let's talk about something that's a little closer to what you do. In what ways does Airbnb intend to work with local authorities and policymakers to advocate fair and practical regulations that support both responsible hosting and the interests of the community in Queens?
Okay. Well, so since the implementation of Local Law 18, we've worked closely with the city and the city's Office of Special Enforcement to educate, New Yorkers and hosts and individuals who want to be hosts on the new rules and regulations. And that's what you're going to see part of if you visit the responsible hosting page. You'll get a sense of what those rules are so that if you want to participate in home sharing or in the platform, you understand what the rules are, and we want to make sure that you're compliant. We've worked with tons of cities. We're regulated in cities globally, right? I mean, we're a global platform. Hundreds of cities have regulated us, and we've worked closely with them to make sure that anyone who's looking to participate understands those rules within their own cities. And, we're encouraging, whether you're a host or you're a visitor or you're a small business owner, we're encouraging people who, if you're impacted by the implementation of Local Law 18, whether you're a host and it's impacting your ability to make ends meet and share your home, or if you're a visitor and it's impacting your ability to visit different parts of the city where, that might be underserved by hotels, or if you're a small business who was accustomed to having, a lot of people stop into your business and who stayed locally using the platform. We encourage folks to reach out, to their council members, reach out to the administration, to
Mhm.
their of local representatives, and talk through those concerns and talk through how this new law has impacted their ability to do those things.
Got it. Got it. So thank you for answering my questions. Now we're going to jump to the audience a little bit because they've already started giving us some work here. So I'm going to start with this one here. I want to know about squatters' rights when it comes to Airbnb due to a guest staying for 30 days or more. And can you remove them from your property once they stay for 30 days, or has this been happening more and more?
It's a great question, and I think specific to Queens too. There was a recent story, I believe, where we had a family staying in someone's home. So squatters' rights are not necessarily specific to Airbnb, right? It goes again into whatever a municipality's laws are. Here in New York City, we do have squatters' rights,
Mhm.
and so I think that's also what may impact a lot of people's decisions to host or how they host, right? Because our platform doesn't just support short-term rentals, right? Like we do have long-term stays, right? Like folks have shared their homes for more than just a few days, right? For various reasons, whether it be students who are attending school somewhere, or just someone who might need a place to stay for a couple of months or so. So we do offer those opportunities as well. But because of squatters' rights here, some people may be hesitant to do that and to participate because of the local laws, or because of the laws of the city. And so they're not necessarily specific to us. But in order to help combat that, individuals would have to go through the same legal process that they would if they were typically just renting their home as well in the same manner.
Got it. Thank you. So we have one here about I have a studio that I want to rent as an Airbnb. How can I rent it without staying there?
If you want to rent it without having to stay there, you're going to have to rent it for longer than the 28-day period. Um, so because of the local law. So the local law in the five boroughs of New York City, if you want to rent your home for a less period than 28 days, you have to be present in the home through the duration of the stay.
Got it. How are hosts protected should a wildly unfortunate event caused by guests occur?
It's a great question, and I appreciate the question. And so we do a lot of work to protect our hosts. We guarantee up to $1 million worth of damage and protection for hosts in the event that something happens in their home.
Um, is there a number you can be reached for advice, or where on Airbnb can they find advice on topics like this?
So as I mentioned, our responsible hosting page is one great place to start, specific, and that's specific to New York City. And we do this similarly in other cities where we're regulated because we want to make sure that people know and understand the rules and regulations in their city. But yeah, if you can always get on our website and connect with our customer service. I'll also share the number as well, Leah, so you can post that for folks as well, and they can always route you to the right person or the right area within the company. Even though we're a global company, when you call, you're going to speak to someone live, and so you're going to get the help that you need.
Got it. Let's see. Um, is this someone said write a contract for you and your renter? You can rent it out to go on vacation, or can is that something you can do? Write a contract with your renters,
Well, again,
or go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Well, listen, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not equipped to give any advice or any legal
Oh,
advice
contracts.
on
Yep.
contracts or renting. And again, I think when it comes to squatters or when it comes to renters, whether you're renting for short term or long term, the broader rules that govern where the rights fall are with those municipalities, right? As I mentioned in my intro, like we're a platform, we facilitate the relationship between two people, but we don't write the laws, we don't own any property, right?
Right.
Person A who owns their home wants to get into this financial relationship with person B, and we are just someone who's vetting as best we can, right? Who both parties say they are, but we don't necessarily have any influence on the local laws.
Got it. So here, a friend of mine has an Airbnb, and it's a separate entrance for guests, and he lives downstairs from the space. Based on what you're saying, his downstairs space technically needs to give guests access.
Yes.
Wow. So yes.
Yep. If they give your guests, they're basically creating like a common household rule, right?
Yeah.
And so, where if you had family, over, you would give that family as much access to the house. I mean, listen, I know like some of us, we have family members who we wouldn't give, you know, in our house, right? And so, but that's pretty much what the law is creating.
Yeah. And then we have here, good evening. How can I own an Airbnb through an apartment property? Um, I'm not sure what you mean, but
So maybe this individual means like if they're a renter.
yeah,
So some it depends on the property,
right.
and some places allow for tenants to rent. I know, I believe in New York City housing, it's not allowed, right? Just broadly, and it will really be based on the building and depend on the building. And so, yeah, you'd have to check with the landlord.
Yeah. I think those are all of our questions. Make sure I didn't miss any. I think those are all of our questions for now. But Warren, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any closing words for our potential Airbnb hosts or current hosts?
I just firstly, I want to say thank you to you for, allowing me this opportunity to help clarify, some of the questions that folks have around short-term renting. I know the last few years have been confusing for people, for both for existing hosts and for people who are looking to become hosts,
Sure.
and for people just traveling into New York City and understanding the rules and regulations. So, however I can be helpful in helping to clarify
Hmm.
some of that, I'd love to do that. And you have my contact information. If any other questions come up, after our conversation here, feel free to reach out to me. And I'm a resource. I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in Queens. I still live in New York.
Yeah,
It's my heart. Southeast Queens
sure.
is is still in my heart, and so we want to be here, and we want to be good partners, and we want to be helpful to the city. We want people to understand the rules and regulations within their city that pertain to our platform, and so however we can do that, we're happy to do that, and I'm here to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Warren G. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon, maybe at an event, maybe at another info session, but soon.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Thank you. What? Wait, hold on. I see more. So I'm going to send the, oh, people are just saying thank you. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we'll stream it a couple times in the group for those of you that couldn't be here. And if you have any additional questions, just write them in the comment and I'll send them over to Warren. And that is the end. See everyone soon.